All right, Gordon, microphone check. We good?
We are good.
All right.
Don't forget 10 minutes in to remind everybody they need to be on the majority of the call to get CE.
Okay. Perfect. We give 60 more seconds. How's everybody doing this morning? Welcome. What's up, Steve the man? Aurora, we got Melanie running around. Nick, Jessica, welcome. Alton, I see. All right. Well, it's 10 o'clock. I always like to honor those of you who were on time by starting on time. I'm a punctual person myself, so thank you for being on. Happy Friday. Hopefully, you guys have some great weekend plans. Maybe a few of you are working all through the weekend because you're powering through with your buyers and sellers. So, my name's Johnny Christensen. Welcome. We are going to go through two pieces of the leverage series. So, this was kind of a continuation of the first class that I taught a month or so ago, the career visioning. The career visioning cycle is all about finding and attracting and hiring the right talent into your organization. So a lot of this stemmed from the MREA on teaching people how to hire through that org chart, but obviously this can ripple effect into any other business that you have out there. So this is the second and third part of the leverage series. So this is 30, 60, 90, and then we also have success through others. So normally this entire leverage series is taught in a 2, 3 day class. Usually the first day and a half is career visioning, and then the last full day is the leverage 2 and 3 portions, the 30, 60, 90, and success through others. We'll be journeying through those probably in a couple hours. I know we have this scheduled from 10 a.m. to noon. I doubt we'll probably go that long, but 30, 60, 90 is kind of the meat of it. That'll be about 2/3, and then that last course will be success through others, about a third of the class. So thank you for being on. I want to introduce myself. I recognize a bunch of you, but it looks like there's a few new faces, but just maybe why or why not I'm qualified to teach the leverage series. I've been in a lot of roles in the Keller Williams ecosystem. I jumped in real estate 2007. What was that? Right before the recession, if you know anything about cycles. I'd heard there was a great market out there, but come to find out, the market just kind of blew up right there. I grew up, as they say, I grew up in 2008, 2009, 2010 in the real estate industry. Even some of you who may be newer to the business the last 2 or 3 years, you're kind of getting that same feeling that I had, just getting in, grinding, learning all the great habits, trying to be as productive as possible, and really just set me up over the next decade after that, maybe 2012, 13 to 2022, 2023, which was just a great 10 years to be in the industry. I started out selling real estate. I started a team with my partner, Clay Winder, the Red Sign team. 2008, we founded our team. We sell on average about 250, 300 transactions a year. Just the Red Sign team cover kind of all across the Wasatch Front. I still own that, still operate that today. But I journeyed through the Keller Williams leadership ecosystem starting in 2010 when I became the team leader of Keller Williams Westfield down here in Orem, Utah County. I know some of you Salt Lake folk don't ever go past the point of the mountain, but Utah County is just south of Salt Lake County, for those of you who don't know. I went into the team leader role, which if you're in a Keller Williams Market Center, pat your team leader on the back. It is the hardest position and the most difficult, hardest work that I've ever done. It is very rewarding. You get to pour into people, but you are a productivity machine. You got to really learn how to dial in your calendar. You've got to learn how to use your time efficiently. Less is more, make a big impact. But one of the things that team leaders do is they are heavily, heavily on hiring people. So over my course, about 10 years, I was in that team leader role. I held thousands of recruiting appointments. So that's kind of where I dialed in my skill set on how to hire, recognize talent, attract talent, how to train them up and get them into productivity fast. Really enjoyed that. I also taught this career visioning quite a bit back then. 5 years ago, I took on the regional director role for the state of Utah. So I work with all the franchises around the state. We have 8 miraculous franchises, around 1,500 Keller Williams agent family members around the state. We cover from St. George all the way up to Logan. And it's been a great thing. But I also became the majority owner, operating partner of Westfield and replaced myself, went out and found my team leader. My team leader today, Shoney Ivins, if any of you know him. We also got into core services, a partner on title company and insurance company. And then I career visioned. I met a guy that knew a bunch of people down in Argentina, and I actually went through the career visioning and the 30, 60, 90 and success through others process with some really core partners down there. And to this day, I'm still an investor. I own what, 20, 25% of the master franchise of the country of Argentina. So we have 13 offices down there nowadays, 700 agents down in Argentina. No hablo español, but I'm learning. I got Duolingo rocking every morning while I'm on the treadmill. Also been investing. So hopefully all of you are investing out there as well. But I've hired a lot of people. I've used this. I have screwed it up so many times. I've failed forward. And so a lot of times, even when I teach this, I like to just share some of my mistakes, and hopefully you can learn from my mistakes instead of relearning from your own mistakes. So I know there's CE. Gordon told me to mention this. You do have to be on the majority of the time. Like I said, we'll be done early. You can take a little break here and there, but Gordon will be taking attendance, and we'll make sure you get your CE credit. You get 2 hours of CE for this. Shout out to Kimber Walton for making sure this is CE approved. But I need you to be active in the chat over the next hour, okay? So tell me, maybe if you're on for CE, just tell me you're on for CE so I know. But any of you out there that are actually looking down the road the next 12 months, what type of hires are you interested in hiring in your ecosystem? Usually, a lot of our rockstar agents, their first main hire is that administrative manager or that directors of operations. But who are you looking to hire, or who's on your mind that you need to start figuring out how to do this well? Got some CE, got some CE. Peter Morkel, you're always hiring people. What are you talking about? Steve is a hiring machine for sure. We got an admin, maybe a buyer's agent. And all right, CE, I have an assistant, but I might need to rehire. Okay, so we got a lot of CEs. So I would actually go through just the next hour with us and journey through on how do you actually step up your productivity with some of these same concepts. But we'll zip through it. So number one, when you're growing your real estate business, whether you're solo, you got some of your first admin, it is never a systematic, organic growth process. Sometimes you'll take a little spurt of growth, like I like to call it. Even when you go hire someone, that's a tremendous step forward in your MREA team. But you've got to go through those phases where you're just refining systems, improving things, taking your TC system from 7 to a 10, or your 36 touch from a 7 to a 10. But it's kind of the stair stepper method. And after that first hire or two, you look down the road several months or years, you should have climbed a handful of those stairs. And Gordon, if you don't mind, if anybody's got questions or points, help me kind of monitor the chat out there. Even VAs, fantastic, Caitlin. So, ensuring your new hires. When you hire someone, it is about really defining the role. So often I see a mistake made by our agents where they're not clear what they actually need done before they start the hiring process. So then when they get a bunch of candidates that show up, they just end up picking the first 7 that comes in their organization that maybe they connected with, and they don't even have clarity on that. So one of the things that I like to do before I even go down the road of posting ads to go hire someone is I do what's called a missing persons report, where I just write down what do I want done and what does the dream person look like? What skills? What are they doing? How organized are they? What's their behavior? Who are they talking to? And it'll just be a jotted bunch of notes. And then I start firming up that clear and clear just on what the ideal role is. And then that makes it a little bit easier for me to understand what type of person I'm going to need to show up for that. And then the career visioning process guides you through that. And the perfect fit for a role is you clarify the role, you found the right person, and then no doubt they can do that job. One of the quotes I like out of career visioning is, hiring talent to the right role should be the next natural step in the progression of the career of that person. So even some of the best rock stars that I've hired for positions, actually, it was just perfect timing in their life to take on that role that I was hiring for. These are the 3 pieces, like I mentioned: career visioning, 30, 60, 90, and then success through others. But the career visioning process, if you've never done your own KPA, please accept my challenge and do your KPA. Have your team leader, your MCA in your office, order your Keller Personality Assessment, the KPA. If you don't know, Keller Williams was paying a company called Corporate Consulting up until about, 8, 9 years ago. We were paying somewhere around $7 to $12 million a year for exclusive real estate industry access to their behavioral and consulting assessments and their reporting. Eventually, Gary Keller just said, hey, we need to go make this a little bit even higher value. How do we make it awesome? And he went out and created his own company that's called the KPA, and we have a super assessment. I think it's probably one of the most valuable, underutilized tools in our system. So use that, even go through that so you at least recognize that we have that tool. And then when you go to hire people, that is the guide that you walk through. And that takes you through these 4 steps of the screening interview process, the very in-depth consultative interview process. You're going through their track record like an FBI candidate hire. You're going through their behavior and verifying their behavior to actually get what their true self looks like. You're going to go through their motivation of just what motivates them. You're going to be calling references, that type of stuff, which is that perspective step. And then really you get to commitment. I always, when I was going to make a real solid hire that I followed this whole career visioning process, one of the first things I would do is I would apologize to them on how lengthy of a process that we actually go through at Keller Williams. So I'd say, hey, just stay there with me. I'm going to learn a lot about you, but you're going to learn a lot about yourself. So that's why I always challenge you, go get your own KPA ordered and even see if one of the leadership team members or someone else in your office could validate and verify that for you to actually understand that's a tool. Most agents have been cheating the process on the hiring, and I highly discourage against that. Follow that report. So even though the career visioning process is all about the candidate, raise your hand if you have actually had your KPA done fully or you have gone through someone's KPA. Okay, perfect, perfect. So you could end up spending 6 to 8 hours with the right candidate that you end up hiring. Yeah, Amy, we got all that in a system, so you should be able to just grab a copy from them and learn about that. But the KPA is such a great process to go through, but most agents cheat it and they do maybe the 31-hour version of it. And the more important hire that you make in your ecosystem, you need to do a better job at sticking to that process. Maybe a buyer's agent, you might be a little less lengthy, but if you're hiring your first administrative manager, promise me you won't cheat this process. You've got to get that first hire right. And I know Cameron was going to be on here, but one of my poster talented people that I've ever had in my organization was actually my 10th assistant hire. I screwed it up 9 times. And finally, when I decided I wasn't going to hire anybody until I got very, very serious, I went to career visioning, the whole class, 4 times in 1 year. I read the MREA 7 to 8 times that year, and I refused to make a hire in my business until I knew exactly what to do and how to do it right. And it was finally that 10th time I hired Cameron Wilson, and he, one full-time hire, we doubled our transactions. We went from 61 to 116 closed transactions with one awesome hire. So getting it right is great. But again, the career visioning process is about the candidate. Even though you feel exhausted after having journeyed 8 hours with someone, that still is about the candidate. Where this 30, 60, 90 process that we're going to spend the next 45 minutes talking about is all about you and you being very, very prepared. There's 4 steps to it. It is completing the pre-work, setting expectations, evaluating talent in the first 90 days, and then ensuring ongoing alignment. So those are the 4 steps we're going to talk about. But in the first 90 days, you have the unique opportunity to build the foundation for a lasting relationship that is based on fully aligned business goals. The second mistake I see our agents and mega agents and rainmakers around the state in our 1,500 agent Keller Williams Utah ecosystem is they do not hire them and get them into just massive productivity fast. They kind of hire someone, they feel like it's the right decision, and they bring them in and they kind of just coast them in at a medium speed. And what they don't realize is they're setting the tone and the culture for how hard they work and the productivity for the ongoing employee relationship. So think back even to your history of careers or sports or church or whatever scenario that when you jumped into something, you were just blown away at the productivity of their culture. And then maybe think about a scenario you jumped in and it was such a casual, lazy culture, and how differently did you show up in those 2 different environments? One of the stories I always like to tell is the growth initiative. Back probably 10 years ago, Keller Williams launched probably the most major growth time frame that we've grown as a company. They launched the growth initiative. I was a team leader for a couple years before they launched this. And what a lot of the appointments team leaders have are these recruiting appointments. On average, before we launched the growth initiative, team leaders in an entire month, guess how many recruiting appointments the average team leader in the average market center across the country, how many recruiting appointments they were holding before this growth initiative? Does anybody know?
Don,
Seven.
I also put the leverage series documents in the link
Oh,
to it,
perfect. Cool.
so they can download a lot of these documents to help them along the way.
Perfect. And I was actually, I got that pulled up too. I was going to show you some of those, but thank you, Gordon. 7 appointments per team leader. And what the growth initiative did basically over the next couple years in the history of our company is it raised the standard of recruiting appointments per team leader per market center from 7 to 40. There was a crazy guy named John Davis that basically drove that initiative. And I'll tell you, I was a team leader and I was working my butt off. And when the company came out and said, you now have to go from 7 to 40 recruiting appointments in a month, my eyes did exactly that, Aurora, and I'm like, "Are you crazy?" I thought the company was insane for at least probably 12 months until finally I saw enough team leaders actually go out somehow and get to 40 appointments. I was the first team leader in the state of Utah that actually got up to averaging 40 recruiting appointments a month. And what was crazy was that pretty much at that time frame, we turned over about 75% of our team leaders around the country. We kind of almost had to like go out and hire a higher level of productivity team leader. And it took Utah about a year for all of the team leaders to get up to 40. But the craziest thing was the second we hired a new team leader after we had risen up to the average of 40 appointments, every new team leader that was coming into the system in one of these offices, within that first 90-day period, all of them were up at the 40 appointments. It just became a very natural culture environment to do. And it was just cool to see that. So you've got to just think, what is the highest productivity culture that you can have in your organization that when someone comes in, they just start sprinting instead of start walking in there. And that's really what this 30, 60, 90 process is all about. So when you have a new hire, you can see you're the leader, the team members there on the bottom. But over that 90 days, you want them to go from you owning the job to them owning the job. After that 90-day period, if you start seeing just a lot of stuff coming back on your plate, that should be a sign that maybe you have that wrong hire. But new hires evaluate whether to continue business with them at the end of each 30-day interval for their first 90 days. Whereas new recruits look at how we can best support them in getting into production 30 days at a time. So when you bring someone on as a W-2 employee and you have everything that goes along with that and the cost and the responsibility and the time and the leadership that it requires, that first 90 days, you should be looking at continual renewal contracts of 30-day employments. Every 30 days, you're going to relook at them. Do I want them in my organization or do I not? And then after that successful 90 days, boom, they should be in momentum and it shouldn't have to be done every 30 days. New recruits, when they're just sales agents, you can have a little less pressure in that scenario or in that relationship because you're really just trying to help get them into production, but a lot of that might be on them as well. So let's talk about pre-work. Really, what the first day say is in what scenarios do you feel most confident about your new job? So continually asking that question to new hires. In what scenario do you feel most confident about your new job? But let's talk about a purposeful 30, 60, 90 plan that ensures new hires masters their 20% and proves their value is step one. So let's get into that. So 30, 60, 90 is basically setting really clear goals and expectations on 30-day blocks. Okay, and having that ready to go. Are you guys all familiar with SMART goals? Specific, measurable, achievable, repeatable, timely. You probably learned that in college or a business degree, but specific, clarity, and specific. Like, do not let them set vague goals and you don't set vague goals for yourself, your organization. Measurable. When we talk about sales, it's usually easy. The number of calls I'm going to make, the leads I get converted to real leads, appointments set, appointments held, listings taken, under contracts, cancellations, closings. Very easy to kind of put measures in the economic model. But some positions like a director of operations or a transaction coordinator or a customer experience professional in your organization, a lot of those are a lot harder to dial in measurable goals around those. And we can go through some of those. But achievable, no doubt we want it to stretch someone, but they need to be achievable. We don't want them to be deflatable. And then repeatable and then timely, putting a time stamp on it, which should be those 30-day increments. But really, you should be reviewing your 3 or 4 things. So number one is your GPS. Does anybody have a GPS in their business? Raise your hand. GPS is your one goal, your 3 priorities, and your 5 strategies. We across the state will be having a business planning clinic in every single market center by the end of the year. So every one of you should have the opportunity to sit in a business planning clinic and come out with a dialed in GPS and an MREA plan for your business, but really just having a clear goal, what you're going to accomplish, the priorities of how you're going to accomplish them, and then the strategies or the tactics that help accomplish those priorities. You should have that in writing, because how are you going to ever get someone to buy into your vision if you're not clear on your vision? One of the old leaders at Keller Williams, Mark Willis, one of the things I learned from him is he told me once that the people that have the most opportunity in business and even the most opportunity in our company do three things very well. Number one is they are really good at creating a compelling vision of where the organization's going. Number two is they're very good at getting people to buy into that vision and selling that vision and getting buy-in on that vision. And number three skill is just systematically holding people accountable to the steps that it's going to take to journey to the accomplishment of that vision. So it really starts with you just having a great GPS. And then identifying which of the three priorities they will help drive within your org chart, right? You might even have division GPSs, but all right, if your GPS, your first priority is your sphere of influence and your 36 touch, you want to close 100 deals, you want 80 of them to come out of your sphere of influence. Clearly, your first administrative manager should heavily help with that priority of at least with the marketing and the support of the execution of that 36 touch, right? And then as you grow your organization, when I brought on my second hire inside my team, when I started adding buyer's agents, all of a sudden, we started creating very specific priorities for their role. And then ensure an alignment with the job profile. The job profile is kind of the new name for that missing persons report, but is basically the description and all the things that a great person should be executing in that job. We do have templates, which Gordon said in that it's all in the Connect inside of Command. So they're really moving all the resources, all of our training. Let me actually pull that up right now. If you log into Connect, this is your leverage hub right here. So you basically go up here and just type in leverage and then click on leverage resources. There is all sorts of things. So here's the KPA, you got your KPA facts, but here's your career visioning process and all the tools that are in there. The first hire calculator, the career visioning checklist, upcoming courses, decision point one, all the steps of the hiring process. You've got a document for every one of those that you can print off. Here is the consulting guide, the job report. There's a bunch of videos of each step of the way. Employee management forms. Here's your GPS template. Here's your 411 goal worksheet. All the documents I'm going to show you in this course all are kind of found right here. Exit interview, motivational story review form. Here's market center job profiles. So we already have a productivity coach job profile, what the ideal productivity coach should look like, operating partner, assistant team leader. But here is 30, 60, 90s also for market centers. So every one of those roles, there's already a sample 30, 60, 90. But then if you look at the job profile for agent teams, so even if you're a year out from hiring someone, go download the job profile and start dreaming up what that first administrative manager's job profile really should look like. And then the 30, 60, 90 should be the companion document as soon as you hire them. What does that 30-day, 90-day, 60-day goals look like? Also, if you haven't seen it, they haven't put out the MRA2 revision yet in actual book form, but we've received some resources already from the research that went into compiling the info for that. One of those is the org charts. So here's the MRA2 org charts out there, but you could even see here's some compensation models for agent teams. It's a document that lays out some comp model ideas, how to pay a buyer's agent, listing agent, transaction coordinator, ISA, so a bunch of those, and then there's just numerous videos out there. Okay. All right, any questions so far on those resources? Knowing the resources is a big piece of not reinventing the wheel on that. So, and then reviewing their commitment on each step way that you can do. Gordon has that in the chat. Gordon, if you could just repost that link to that one. So let's talk about constructing your 3690 with SMART goals. So reviewing all your materials, you download that 306090. So if you look at here, this is what the Showing Assistant 306090 looks like. Here's just some sample 30-day benchmarks, 60-day benchmarks, 90-day benchmarks, but it's an editable Word doc that you can then go in and add all yours. then you can actually have the team member and you sign that in advance that saying we are committed to these goals. But having the right 30, 60, 90 and then customizing it, very, very important. So how do you customize that 30, 60, 90? Number one, that 30, 60, 90 should reflect goals that then lead you to the accomplishment of your GPS. Those goals on your 3690 should be about their goals. Maybe you're pulling that out through the motivational interview, their role on the team, what your organization, maybe you have a different mission statement, your leadership, your market. Compiling all these, most of the time, what happens is people just ask me, say, hey, Johnny, can I have your 306090 for the TC or for that? And it's always hard for me to say, hey, just go use this because it's such a custom reflection of my organization. I'm always open to share. But now with ChatGPT, there should be zero excuse. Just throwing in the sample, the job profile, your GPS, you should be able to customize a 306090 for each role that's coming to organization and each person very easily and very quickly on that 306090. But then that is the guide.
Hey,
Training
Johnny,
resource. Yep.
there's a question if we could go over ISA, OSA at some point.
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Peter, you have a question right now?
They would like
That's
to know how to hire. What
hire.
point can we talk about that?
Okay. Peter?
Whenever it fits into your presentation, I'd love to talk specifically about that hire if we can.
Yeah, what question are you gonna have so I know where it might fit in?
Yeah, so the question is like, how do you screen for that? Because like there's a personality profile, KPA. I'm just having a hard time finding someone who's a rock star in that.
Peter, ditto. Just kidding. Yeah, that is probably the hardest department of Red Sign I've ever built out. And we've done it a full three evolutions. The first time I had the right people kind of coming up, I didn't have the right leader. The second time after that blew up, I had the right leader, but we didn't have enough resources and we didn't have enough people fast enough to retain that leader. The third time, it did work for a long time for us. It is hard because that is more instead of like a administrative, because I know you've had a lot of hires in your world. It is not really a weekly accountable position like an admin, a TC, an ops director. It is a daily accountable type of position. And even you knowing Caton was like the best person to like try to lead and have some leadership on that. But it's a very tough role. And even the people that you attract that are okay and just, motivated to go sit on the phone, it's a different behavioral profile. This might be an offline appointment, Peter, but I really feel like we're already to the point, let alone the next year, that AI and a lot of these voice AI systems will replace pretty much a lot of the ISA divisions inside a team. So we kind of had been building around a couple of our last ISAs. And then eventually with the market turn, Vivint offering, big comp package, we had a couple of them poached, but we're now fully AI ISAs only. And it is actually going pretty well. So we could talk offline and kind of show you those. But our plan was just to have one super ISA that our AI ISA systems are kind of just positioning that to be a rock star ISA. But now we're actually fully AI right now. So it is interesting. And I really think even the next research for MREA2 before the book comes out, it's going to have to show a lot of the AI integrations and some of the things that we've been able to replace with AI. So, and you can ask more questions as we go on. But training resources, I'll tell you, when you go hire, one of the pieces of advice I got from a MAPS coach a long time ago is when I was hiring that administrative manager, my coach asked me, "Hey, are you a great assistant or administrative manager?" And I'm like, "No, I don't think I am at all." They're like, "Well, why do you think you should be the person then to train your administrative manager?" And it was kind of a light bulb that went off for me that I have to no doubt be the accountable person. I have to make sure it's the right hire, but outsourcing some of that training and coaching and whatnot to the ecosystem of Keller Williams has been a tremendous value piece for me. So if you're not familiar with all the resources out there, we have tons of featured shows on different topics. We have KWU courses that specifically nail topics that you might want to be learning about, KW Maps coaching, leadership, agent videos. We have full market center training calendars all over. We have regional training calendars, one-on-one training, shadowing successful people in the role, consultative conversations. Really, I outsourced, I don't know if Cameron's on here yet, but I would probably say 75% of the training that he received when he became our ops director was outsourced into the Keller Williams ecosystem. Here is even MAPS coaching. So not just a one-on-one coach, but they have a lot of group coaching programs if you're not familiar with them. Level up your market center operations. Like that would be a fantastic one for an admin or administrative manager. You can see building your machine, your lead generation machine. If you have a marketing person or whatnot, never-ending referrals, just a lot of timely group coaching programs are very relevant out there. And then really building a training plan for your new hire. That first 90 days, you just don't know what you don't know. I always like the standard, at least the first 90 days, that every new employee or person that I had into my organizations, I actually, when I was creating their perfect calendar for them, I would usually put 30 to 60 minutes of training every single day. I was really committed to make sure, A, they're learning base, but I also want to make sure that they are just getting overwhelmed with all the resources and training so they don't go down the road of reinventing the wheel. So you helping handle building the training plan for them would be ideal. But there really is almost four components to that. And I don't know how you all do your training program, but there's training, education, just the resources. They're just downloading the content and trying to just internalize as much of it. There's classes, there's videos, those books, all that stuff. So I think that's one component of it. I also think that's different from consulting, mentoring, masterminding, like helping line people up, whether it's you or these hires, who's someone farther in the role than them that could be a great mentor or a consultant for them that could just point out different things to speed up their journey or get quick questions asked. Then there's coaching. Coaching is like week to week accountability. Someone, whether it's you as the hirer, you outsource it to a MAPS coach during that 30, 60, 90, or even the ongoing year, but someone that is ingrained enough in their day to day, but on a week to week basis, they can hold them accountable to just a numerous set of tasks. And then the fourth piece of a training plan is really just skill set development, actually going out and performing in their role. So that a lot of role play, script practice if they're going to be on the phones. It could be CeeDee Lamb catching footballs last night because he dropped 3 and now lost the game for the Cowboys, sadly. But just performance, skill building. Yes, I'm a Cowboys fan. Sorry, guys. All right, so that is getting ready and gathering all the materials and documents and just being ready to go. Then it comes down to setting expectations. And I want you to right now, so I know some of you said you were on just for CE, but I want to spend a couple minutes right now and imagine that every one of you hired the perfect administrative manager. You brought someone into your organization. It's the first full-time hire, and they are just taking all sorts of stuff off your plate, and they are crushing it. They're nailing it. Jump in the chat right now and imagine that you hired them, and after this 90 days of high productivity, what would be amazing that they just handled for you in your real estate sales business? What would be amazing? What would be awesome if they did this? For example, transaction coordination and listing management. After 90 days, you feel so confident in this new hire that you're no longer involved in the under contract process or listing management other than maybe small step-ins when you're needed as the agent. What else, hiring an administrative manager that's crushing it, after 90 days, they're taking on? Social media, event coordination, sign calls, social media. What else? Gordon, washing your car, client database management, marketing, executing command, social media, client follow-up, touches, and referrals. Perfect. Good enough. So even me, when I hired Cameron as my director of operations, I really had three things for him. Number one was he had to take over and just master the under contract listing management checklist. So I wanted him to just totally take all that on. And we call those files, whether it's a pre-listing listing, it's an active listing, it's an under contract, all those are kind of files. I want a total file organization. I made him go out and get all the best checklists, from all the other great agents and teams, and he cultivated and built our top checklists for listing management under contract, took all that off. The next one for me was 36 touch. There's a lot of lead generation paths out there, but so many people don't have just an awesome 36 touch. And even when you're a busy agent, there's probably a lot of balls falling through the cracks. So I think that was number two, is just getting us a perfect 36 touch, executed, handled all events, emails, any mailings that we did, whatever, other than the phone calls on a 90 basis, take that on. And then even the third one was get us organized in a CRM. At that point, we didn't have command, and I said, just go research the best CRMs out there and pick one, and then it's your responsibility to just get us fully organized. And Steve, you hit the nail on the head right there. I would not be hiring any sort of administrative operations role unless they are just incredible at AI or committed to go out and do that. So I think even you journeying through that of after 90 days, what would be perfect? Then just reverse engineer backwards to help go out and create those 30, 60, 90-day benchmarks just on what reasonable time or measurable goals around that. So here's the expectation conversation. So once you got organized, you're going to sit down with them and day one, orientation, get them processed in, but then go out and actually explain and present your GPS to them, the job profile. You should then present the document that you created, which is their 30, 60, 90. You should explain the 20% rule. So the 80-20, the Pareto principle, 20% of our activities lead to 80% of our results on all those different things, and helping them understand to not treat everything equally. Most administrative managers or people come in, they just have a long to-do list. You need to help them understand there's 80% activities and there's 20% activities, and then clarifying on that 30, 60, 90 why the majority of those are 20% activities or what might be 80%. And then talk about earning the role as you continue down that process. Discuss the accountability schedule and how you're going to hold them accountable, and then present that entire schedule for the first 90 days. Okay. So even just dive a little bit deeper, really just making sure logic makes you think, emotions make you act, right? So sharing and just helping reaffirm their commitment and just breathing out some motivation and just passion then becomes addictive, that they're going to show up with passion. Show them the GPS, read the job profile, present their 30, 60, 90 we talked about, explain the 20% rule, share their training plan as well on that, talk about earning the role, show them that the graph of how they earn that role over time, and then discuss accountability. And we'll go over this a few different times, but usually weekly, I would hold an accountability meeting on Friday. And then really you should have big 30, 60, 90-day evaluations blocked. So you might have a 30-day accountability coaching appointment on Fridays after that week. And then 30, 60, 90, you might have more like an hour, 90-minute meeting for that. And then present that schedule and get rolling in that calendar for them. Then evaluating talent in the first 90 days. Focus on evidence, not emotion. Focus on evidence and performance. I know a lot of our agents are high eyes. They're tornadoes of love and productivity and sales, but channel your high D, your bottom line results, and just weed through emotion, weed through the fluff, and really truly see what is the evidence of the output of productivity and performance of them. And then really build systems of accountability, 30-day, 60-day, 90-day evaluations. As Gary Keller always says, he says, hire slowly, fire quickly. So again, you setting the right standards and expectations up that this 90-day period is an evaluation period. We will look at 30, 60, and 90-day increments to make sure this is still a fit for you as an employer and them as an employee. And you staying on the same page and addressing things very quickly really will help you prevent getting in business with someone. What Gary says is what happens most of the time is people hire their brother, their cousin, their friend, their neighbor, whatever, who turns out, because you just have a charitable, loving heart, they kind of fell in your lap, you got excited about growing a business. But what happens is that person ends up kind of being a 7. They're good, they're not great. And what happens is you kind of end up building a box around your business because you fall in love with that person, you start caring about them, you feel obligated to provide for them, that then you look up and you're at the same production level that you were last year. Now you just paid for another full year employee. That's why making sure and taking drawing a line in the sand saying, all right, I have to really make sure that first hire is incredible. And every 30 days, you need to be objective enough and not emotional enough that you can look at that position, that person, and say, do I want to continue another 60 days, 90 days, right? Once you get through 90 days, you don't want to be tiptoeing every 30 days. You definitely need to give people security and stability, but they just need to know that first 90 days is an evaluation accountability period, no doubt. Daily stand-ups. So when I got hired as a team leader in 2010, Boyd Brown was my OP. He's the one that hired me as a team leader. And it's been a long time ago, but one of the things I do remember is Boyd called me every single morning the first 60, maybe even 90 days. And it wasn't like totally organized, but it was just a check-in of, hey, what's on your list today? How'd yesterday go? What are your tasks you're going to accomplish? What are your goals today? Just a quick little 2-minute phone call was considered my daily stand-up, addressing potential issues, celebrating recent successes, and sometimes even just helping them stay the course. I remember I was probably like 4 or 5 days in. I cold called some office's roster, and the first guy that picked up the phone was so mean to me. He was so mean to me as the team leader, a brand new 25-year-old team leader. And I remember he called me a bunch of names, hung up on me, and I was just blown away that someone could be so rude. And I immediately called Boyd, and I'm like, I don't think I can do this job anymore. I'm like, I am not built for this job. And Boyd chuckled a little bit. He said, "Don't let it, don't let it affect you. Get back out there," was pretty much all he said. But even just having daily communication to kind of help address, little challenges that might pop up, is definitely helpful. The rubber meets the road on a weekly 411. Raise your hand if you're using a 411 in your business. Every person in our company should be living with a 411. It's your GPS is your business plan for the year. Your 411 is really where the execution of your business plan goes into play. So even if you're on here for CE, I'm challenging you to use a 411. So it's 1 year, 1 month, and then 4 weeks. You can see you're repeating your annual goal. Month goal, you're actually putting whatever month, what is the big rock, what is the set of numbers, whatever it is that you need to accomplish in the month of September. And then every week, you're going to then, Monday, Sunday, whatever, you're going to come in and fill out what are your main week goals. And then that becomes your 4-in-1. I'll tell you, a good chunk of our company has a GPS, but very few people use the 4-in-1 tool. And I'll tell you, the people that use the 4-in-1 tool drastically outproduce the people that don't. It is a very high productivity and accountability form. And if you're not using this to even hold people accountable in your organization, use this as a gentle reminder to get people back on a 4-in-1. Meetings, that 4-in-1 meeting, even if you were being held directly accountable from Gary Keller, he uses these same questions. He says, what were your goals last week? How did you do? How do you feel about that? Okay, what do you need to do now? What might keep you from these new goals? And then let's identify training solutions and how can I support you? Really, it's those first three. What were your goals last week? How did you do on an accomplishment of those? And then how do you feel about that? Once you get that out, then just create the next set of week goals with them. Jump out of that. 90 days. So here's 90-day ongoing expectation conversation. Review the job profile, 30, 60, 90s, go over the training plan, assess progress and achieving goals, gauge ownership, make red light, green light call, and explain ongoing expectations. We can skip these. These are kind of somewhat repetitive. And then really, at that 30, 60, 90 day, you have the opportunity to gracefully exit the relationship. All of a sudden, if you're not performing the 30, 60, 90 and you have some major problems that they kind of just get kicked down the road, that's where getting out of business with someone 6 months later, 12 months later is going to be a lot harder. So the way you set this up is where you earn that opportunity to gracefully exit a relationship. And also, it's not just for you, it's for them. Imagine just being in a mediocre job that you're not happy about for years. This is a time for you, even as a leader, to challenge to get the most out of someone. And if not, help free them up to go find it somewhere else. Ensure ongoing alignment. This is pretty much after that 90 days, but regular weekly conversations, not yearly performance reviews. And then I threw this in there because I wanted to review this. So oftentimes I had to just remind myself what talent is. This is one of the slides that if I could challenge you to just print it off or cut it out and just put it above your computer. And let's go through them. So what is the difference between talented people and non-talented people? Non-talented people bring you problems. What does talent people in roles do? They find solutions. Non-talent doesn't fulfill your needs and ends up giving you pieces of the job back. Talent shares your goals, fulfills your needs as a natural byproduct of fulfilling their own. Non-talent doesn't know what they want and isn't searching. Talent in a role knows what they want or is actively searching to know. Non-talent requires pushing. Talent in a role pushes you. I'll tell you, even that line is the biggest learning lesson that I've had between hiring non-talent and talent. Non-talent, I've had people in my organization that I just want things for them more than they want it. And I just keep having to push them on a weekly, monthly basis. But I'll tell you, when you truly get a talented person that shows up in your organization, you hire them, the amount that they push you and just help you just raise the bar of your level of leadership and productivity is incredible. You want people in your organization that push you. And the non-talent may not know where the existing bar is set or even what bar you're talking about. And then talent in a role is continually raising the bar. Non-talent may not know where the existing bar is set or even what bar you're talking about. I love that one. Non-talent doesn't care who they spend time with and repels talent from them. Talent demands to be associated with talent and attracts talent to them. Non-talent role, when they try to talk action and results, they can't back it up. And talent role talks a language of action and results. This is one of the pages too. Every 30, 60, and 90-day period, when we're going through their kind of evaluation, I re-go through this with them. I don't think there's a high max amount of time that you could actually review this with people in your organization. Quarterly rate and rank. So here is a rate and rank sheet that Gordon also shared the link to, just all those leverage resources. But it's going back to the job profile, and it's kind of helping you understand how do you rank their performance when you're doing that evaluation. And then here is also when you notice or you determine a gap of where they need to improve, identifying it is the most important, and then creating a plan to go out and improve that performance. Here is the actual document that you can go through on a formal process. Is it productivity? Is it attendance, efficient, quality? Is it conduct? And then actually having a performance improvement plan, and then they sign off on this on those 30, 60, 90-day evaluation. Very great formal way of just helping get the most out of someone. So again, rechecking in with where you're on those stair steps. And then really this is what you want it to look like after that. So you own the job after that 90 days. They've earned it. Your supervision and support required with them performing their job should be very minimal at this point. And then beyond that 90 days, the ongoing evaluations is just to keep them at that high level of owning the job. Yep, there is, Steve, we can find that for you too. All right. So that was about 45 minutes. Again, this will probably be like 20, 30 minutes, but let's open it up for questions right now. Or ahas, share some things. Stop share. All right. Any questions? Any other comments on that, Peter? Any ahas on 30, 60, 90?
I think that there's so many ahas, right? So many.
So you who Aurora was on for CE, I think. What are you going to do from it? You are hiring someone, right? Oh, okay.
I don't need CE. I have somebody, but when you said evidence, not emotion, yeah, that's hard. That's very challenging.
Right.
I also
Peter?
think this kind of reminds me why I came to KW in 2013 to begin with, is there's systems and models for everything. Just follow the model, follow the system. Don't try and innovate until you've used the model for 10 years.
Yeah.
You know?
And I'm glad Gordon makes me teach this on a recurring basis, because every time I prep for this and then I jump into teaching it, I'm like, dang it, I start slacking on that piece of my 3069, or I start slacking on this piece of it. And just getting back to the formal process of using the documents and following the model, you're right. Just even using this, if you have people in your organization, like I know Peter's got a big team, actually using this as a coach up moment. So bring your people back in and be like, hey, I just attended this class. I want to get more out of me and you, and actually use this as a relaunch kind of step. I took over a market center that was kind of a failing market center in 2010 as team leader. And a lot of this was not about getting the right hires. It was about relaunching some of the people in the organization. And sometimes that takes, a minute, but even using a lot of these same tools in a relaunch was very easy for me. Valuable. Anything else? Any questions, ahas?
Hey, Johnny, it's Dalton.
What's up, Dalton?
Camera's not working, I apologize, but how do you feel about, so I brought somebody on, I didn't have any idea all of the system existed, that's why I'm here today. He's not killing it in the role that I pulled him for, but he does have a skill set. How do you feel about repurposing within the team? Possible, or job?
I think it is the leader's responsibility of putting the right person on the right spot of the bus, no doubt. And I think even as being a learning, leader, you're going to make mistakes and you're not going to recognize certain things and you're going to kind of fell forward. So I do think there is a percentage of people that might just be on the wrong seat of the bus. Some of my best hires actually came in applying for different positions that when I went through the career visioning process slowly, I recognized that they actually weren't a right match for the position they applied for. And in that conversation, I transitioned it into the actual position I thought they might be a better fit for, whether it was with my organization, maybe someone else in the office or whatever. But I would also bet that probably 2/3 of the time, I have just continually moved people around, and they've sat on every seat of the bus, and I was just trying to move them around in an effort to not have to like have the difficult conversation or let them go. And I wish I would have just had the courage to make a change faster. It probably delayed my productivity or the next step a certain amount. But with that said, you've got to be making sure that you're doing everything you said, like Peter, following the model and you being the right leader, you coaching them the right way. Do they have the resources they need? Whatever. Like I always try to put the blame on me. And once I feel like I'm doing as much as I can or as close to that as possible, then I really know it's exposing their lack of, being the right fit, and the MRA talks a lot about cul-de-sac talent as well. Sometimes that's a negative. Sometimes you even just knowing what they're great at and letting them stay in that and stop trying to make them become someone different. That's okay. But then a lot of times you just might have them, you just might have the wrong person in your organization. And that's for me, like getting the 30, 60, 90-day right prevents me having heartburn. You get someone in the wrong seat and it just drags out and you're looking up a year later, you're just like, dang it, like they are family to you, like you feel this obligation out there. So yeah, to answer your question a little bit.
Yeah, great feedback. Thank you.
All right, anybody else? Questions, comments, ahas? Okay, let's get back at it with success through others, which is fairly short. And then I have one thing I wanted to share with you at the end. So success through others is really about amplifying opportunities for proven talent. And at this point, one of your favorite books of curriculum should be some of the Maxwell books. Like there really is such great leadership content in some of those. The law, the 5 levels of leadership, the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. Like there was a big chunk of time that I spent really trying to figure out how do I be a good enough leader that I can lead really talented people. You go out and expect to go hire an 8, 9, 10 in your organization and you're performing at a 6 or a 7, how long do you think that 9 or 10 is going to stay in your organization? Not very long, right? And that's part of it is you have to be growing at a speed that's going to stay ahead of that person. So Gary Keller, he's very transparent about this. He's like, I did not set out to be the #1 company in the United States, #1 company in the world. But what happens when you start bringing talented people into your world has to get bigger and bigger and bigger to make sure it can fit these other people's worlds, right? One of our very first CEOs came in, and it was a time frame where $1 million income for a CEO of a real estate company was unheard of. Unheard of. It was 20 something years ago. That CEO came in, and Gary's like, "What are your goals?" And the CEO is like, "I want a pathway that I can make $1 million in this position." And it's just cool to see how Gary's brain works. A lot of people be like, "Oh, I can't afford that. I can't figure that out. I got to go find someone with lower expectations." It's not how Gary works. He's like, "Okay, how do I actually reverse engineer that comp plan? Where do we have to grow? How big do we have to get or whatever? What has to happen for that CEO to actually have the company be on a trajectory for them to make that?" So a lot of the biggest excuses I get from our agents around the state is the amount they're gonna have to pay an administrative manager freaks them out, right? And I'll tell you, if you're doing the 30, 60, 90-day right, and you're actually holding that person accountable, the right hire should double your income. They should be making more than what you're paying them in your organization. And that's why just making sure that you are constantly amplifying opportunities helps a lot of the talent even pay for themselves. So we covered this, but let's hit this. So it's about them inside your business. This is the trajectory as I do it. A lot of you are in the I do it phase. You even bring someone in, maybe you partnered up, you hired your first hire, you got your first agent. It still feels like we do it. And those both categorized are jobs. And then eventually you find the right talent that's off your plate and it is not coming back onto your plate. That's they do it, which is now you officially own a business. You can leave and your business still moves. And the coolest thing that I've been able to experience is when you bring in leaders that then go out and hire other talented people in your organization. So their people now are doing the job. So you have a second layer in, you now have an empire. And that's why you emulating and being the example, following this process. So then when you bring someone in and they actually start to grow in your organization where they start to attract talent and hire people and hold them accountable, that's a whole nother level that you need to be holding them accountable to these same models and systems. And that's having an empire. Again, checking for talent, but you spending your energy for results. You understanding that 20% of energy achieves 80% of your results. And one of the other things that I like to point out with MIG agents is oftentimes they'll bring in someone into the organization that just frees up a lot of their time and leverage that the agent or the rainmaker is not then replacing a portion of that with other high energy 20% activities to grow the business big enough versus just kind of taking care of the same business, making sure that you're ratcheting it up. The three-step process to this is number one is thinking big, seizing the opportunity, and then empowering their success. Thinking big, here's that illustration that I was just describing. So your world, if their worlds are not to the size that fit in your world, you will not retain top people. Your world has to be very big for their worlds to grow and expand to stay inside of yours. So you constantly, if you have people in your organization, which Peter Morkel, I know you do this a lot, but like if you don't have nights where you're laying awake, sleepless, thinking about opportunities you can create for your people, you're probably not thinking about your people enough. You need to make sure that you're constantly the leader that is rolling out the next level of opportunities for them. Again, here's your GPS. I even threw this in there. You having a very clear vision and getting buy-in on that vision and then you holding them accountable to their pieces of execution of that is very, very important. So if you don't have clarity in your goal or what the priorities are that are going to accomplish that goal, do that first. I like to even go a step farther. So this is something I always do. I go 1 year out, I go 3 years out, I go 5 years out, I go someday goals out. I generally know where I want all my organizations to be 3 years from now, 5 years from now. You look at even AI companies and their development, they have such a fine-tuned vision on execution on a month, a year-by-year basis that they're rolling through. You've got to look down the road on your business and then season your opportunity. There we go. What are your opportunities for growth? What action will you take? You've got to seize the opportunity through 4 pathways: proactive designer, proactive seeker, ready builder, open to possibilities, and then revisiting their motivational story. So motivational story happens in the career visioning. I actually pulled these out. I might have texted a few of you. This is my partner's, Clay Winder. I did his back in 2013, and I just had a file of a bunch of future self motivational interviews. And I texted this to him yesterday, and it was just cool, the accomplishment and everything that he wanted to do a decade ago. He's nailed these, every single one of them. So part of that is when you do their motivational story on a frequent basis, at least once a year, you should be sitting back down and going through that future self motivational story exercise. To review what they've accomplished, because you invested into all the things they want to accomplish is one of the best retention tools, but also how their leadership, how their visions grows, but then just even more clarity on what's the next 3 to 5 year goals for them. So even
Hey,
on
Johnny, can you explain where that came from out of the KPA and how you set that up?
Yeah, it used to be a standalone activity called the Future Self, where the question you ask is, Clay, say we're sitting down 3 or 5 years from now, and I ask you how the last 3 years or 5 years has been for you, and you say awesome. What has to happen for you the next 3 years for you to be able to tell me that it was the best 3 years of your life? Not good, not great, the best 3 years of your life, and then you really kind of start getting into some categories, and then you start helping them get more specifics on it. What does that look like? What are the emotions tied to them? Why do they want? But that is the 4th section of the interview process in the KPA. It's called the motivational journey, where you walk them through this So after you've done the KPA process, you should have this completed with them. I like this even as a standalone after you've hired people activity. I like to often revisit this because most people are just moving so fast that they're not always stepping back and thinking about really what they want to accomplish. And there's even forms out there that are called the motivational story review form. So once they've created it, maybe once a year, even at that 90 days, what did you achieve? What did you do? What did it do for you? How has your leadership changed? So actually walking them through to recognize their growth and progress, because that revisit their motivational story. Review their original motivational story, construct a new motivational story, and then share your vision. Offer the opportunity, and then confirm alignment. And then really just empowering the ownership, letting them build through their GPS, priority 1 driver, priority 2 driver, priority 3 driver, but GPS org chart need new hire. So I'm just flying through these so we can kind of just open it up for discussion. And then the last power moment I have for you. Support their leadership, goals that are directly tied to their GPS, activities related to finding, empowering, or leading talent. And then again, accountability to results. Okay. All right. That is it. Okay. Let's open this up, and then I have one more thing I wanted to go through with everybody. So very specific questions. I know a lot of you are on for CE, so we'll end short, but those of you who are on for a direct hire or a goal or a vision, what other questions or things do you want to discuss? Okay.
I think that I need to like take a little bit of time and go through everything and then actually reevaluate what I'm doing right now.
Good,
I
good.
changed some things a lot.
Anybody else? Okay. Last and final thing I want to share, Steve, I know you've seen these, maybe Cameron, but I want to share with you some slides that I just pulled out of my business mastery. So me and my team leader, Shoni Ivans, here in the Westfield Orem office, he talked me into joining Tony Robbins' Platinum program a year ago. So I've been to more Tony Robbins programs the last 12 months. A lot of time spent for that, but we just a couple weeks ago got back from his business mastery. It's pretty much the most intensive 5-6 days MBA in a week type of program. That was fantastic. If you haven't really ever been to a Tony event, Tony is a machine. He really is one of the best humans and trainers out there on the planet. So I wanted to share this specifically with you. So Keith Cunningham is one that typically frequents this business mastery. And he gave us his best 14 pieces of advice. So if you don't know who Keith Cunningham is, he's written these books, The Road Less Stupid, Keys to the Vault. But even if you've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad that Robert Kiyosaki wrote, he is the rich dad in that book. So he was a fantastic mentor to Kiyosaki. He described all the great principles he learned from that rich dad. But also, if you don't know Keith, he lives down in Austin, Texas right now, where the corporate headquarters of KW is. He is the poster child of trying to learn from his own lessons, which is why he wrote this book, Road Less Stupid, or some of these other ones that he's written. He lost over $100 million in the 80s in that recession time period. Rates were crazy. He made just a few fundamental mistakes over leveraging, whatnot, that cost him $100 million. And he ended up having to start over. And he went out and built an empire again after that, which is crazy. So that's why he says a lot of times the best path of wealth building and success is just not doing really stupid things. So even just think about your wealth building journey. If you could take out your top 1, 2, or 3 wealth building mistakes, where would you be right now, right? So he has been a consistent trainer, teacher, written books. He travels and speaks. But even the right picture, you can see Keith got very emotional. He spoke to us for about 5 hours. He loves this group. There was only about, I don't know, maybe 800 people in the room, just really high level business owners, anywhere from a couple million revenue to billions of dollars of revenue. Just rock stars were in this room. And he's always loved mentoring them, but he's kind of realized he's on the end of his career, his speaking career, that type of thing. So he put together the top 14 piece of advice that he's going to turn into a book and a course. And we were the first group ever to see these 14 pieces of advice that he gave us. They're still kind of in rough draft form, but as he finished giving them to us, he just clearly got emotional as he knows that's kind of going to be a little bit of his finale in his business career. So let's journey through these, and then we'll open anything else for questions. Housekeeping with Gordon on the CE, but then we'll wrap it up. Number one, you are going to get old, hopefully, and you are definitely going to die. You won't believe how fast the getting old part happens. This should help you set some priorities and pay very close attention to how you use, invest, and manage your time. You have very little to waste. Number two, the truth or reality does not require your participation to exist. You can ignore the facts if you want to, but you can't ignore the second order, which is consequences. All choices have consequences. Think long term. Short term thinking rarely produces favorable long term results, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Number three, all your problems started out as a good idea. The reason for every mistake you will make is one of the following: excessive optimism, unexamined assumptions, and ignored risk. Be very aware and thoughtful about assumptions and risks. Number four, crappy things will happen. How you respond to them will have a tremendous impact on your future. Some of the hardest things turn out to be the best things. Success will entail adversity, losses, and setbacks. Coming back from and mastering disappointments is critical to achieving the desired destination. We know crappy things will happen. Coming back from and mastering disappointments is critical to achieving the desired destination. And number five, people will disappoint you. People will disappoint you. You must learn to be patient, understanding, empathetic, and learn to forgive others and yourself. People will be people. Most people are doing the best they can, and none of them are perfect, including you. Surround yourself with people who you admire. You really become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. It is important to have people in your life who you admire, who inspire, who have higher expectations for you than you do for yourself, who hold you to a higher standard and help you be accountable, and whose advice you will listen to. Number 7, periodically ask yourself the question: what's predictable that hasn't happened yet? Prepare for what you know will happen. Avoid being out of position for the stuff you don't know will happen. Bad economies do not cause businesses to fail. They expose weak businesses. Number 8, you get what you tolerate, regardless of the topic: wealth, health, excellence, fitness, relationships. Refuse to lower your standards to accommodate someone else's need for mediocrity or worse. Number 9, what you get out of something is heavily correlated to what you put in. Doing the least to get the most. Dabbling, trial and error, shiesty shortcuts, and voodoo hacks do not produce mastery or success. Clarity on the outcome you want and consistent execution on the critical drivers for that outcome will be your best friend, and it takes time. Fast is rough, slow is smooth, smooth is fast, patience grasshopper. Number 10, you don't have to wait until all your problems are solved to decide to be happy. It is easy to forget to be grateful. An obsession with what's wrong is a prescription for misery and is rarely the whole story. I love this one. You don't have to wait until all your problems are solved to decide to be happy. It is easy to forget to be grateful. An obsession with what's wrong is a prescription for misery and is rarely the whole story. Number 11, takeoffs are optional, landings are mandatory. Choices are optional, but the consequences that come from them are mandatory. Choose your choices wisely. Takeoffs are optional, landings are mandatory. Number 12, do these 3 things and your life will work. Break a sweat, stay thirsty, be coachable. Do these 3 things, your life will work out. Break a sweat, stay thirsty, be coachable. Work hard, stay hungry, and just stay learning based and teachable. I think my favorite one right here that meant the most to me, number 13, the obstacle in the way is the way. The obstacle in the way is the way. So often we're trying to just build our life around these obstacles when really the way is through that obstacle. And then number 14, hell on earth would be to meet the man you could have been. Hell on earth would be to meet the man you could have been. Self-mastery is the key to a life well lived. All right, ahas. Anybody want to share anything from those? Gordon did throw those out in the chat. Those are fantastic. I've read those 10 times over the last 7 to 10 days, and every time something else pops out to me or my light bulb goes off. So great 14 piece of advice by the main man, Keith Cunningham. Gordon, any final housekeeping items on the CE piece?
Nope. Kibra will be posting those probably the first part of next week.
And I doubled your time. You spent an hour with me, and you're getting 2 hours. So don't tell the Division of Real Estate on Gordon. But thank you. Hopefully, you have a happy Friday. Any final questions, ahas?
No, thank you. This is amazing.
Okay. Well, thanks, everybody. And me as RD, if you ever need a question answered or you do have a specific hire or a challenge or something like that, I know you always have your fantastic team leaders and OPs and market center leadership. But if you ever need anything from me, I'm always happy to help and give you some advice from all the mistakes I've made. So learn from me. All right, everybody. Thank you. Have a fantastic weekend and enjoy your Friday. See you, everybody.